hearing tonight on police reform in our city. I want to basically start by thanking all the members of our committee, 7 of whom are here tonight, and others are participating by Zoom. I want to thank them for giving up their time so that we can work together to make White Plains a more just and equitable community. I want to also thank those that are participating tonight and making their comments. It's very important. And I want to highlight that there are a number of ways to comment. You can come in person. You can go in by Zoom. You can also, we have a dedicated email address and a dedicated telephone hotline where you can leave messages. And we have some of our community partners, trusted community partners that are available that you can just walk in and give a statement about your concerns and what you think should be changed. Working together, we're going to come out the other side with a better city, a better police department, and better community relations. So thank everybody who's involved. And with that, I'm going to cede the chair to our chairperson, Ms. Griffith.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Janice Griffith. I am the chairperson of the White Plains Police Reform Committee, and I'm very excited to say this is the first of 3 listening sessions that we have put together, and the focus will be on hearing from the community on their experiences with law enforcement, the good, the bad, everything. We want to know, because the goal of this committee is to make change, to look at what's working and look at what's not working, to look at policies and procedures that may or may not be working, and what we can do to make this community feel safer for everyone. No matter who they are, everyone should feel that it doesn't matter what their race is, their gender, their lifestyle, that they will be treated fairly and justly with the criminal justice system. So this is your opportunity to call in and speak to us so we know. With that being said, are we ready for our first speaker? Okay.
Well, good evening. I thought I was third, but I guess I'm going to go first. My name is Jeff Tomlinson. I'm representing the racial justice team of the Community Unitarian Universalist Congregation at White Plains. I was going to speak mostly about policy, police reform policy, rather than personal experience. One of my children has had personal experience, and maybe I'll have a chance to get to that later. I have served on the Westchester Coalition for Police Reform for about 5 years.
I don't know if I'm the only one, but I can't hear anything.
And learned a lot about police policy over those 5 years. And I see this finally as a historical opportunity for us to work on police reform. We've been waiting for this opportunity for a long time now, for the public to wake up to what needs to be done, what changes need to be made. And I admit most of us in the public are not police experts. And so we speak from our own personal experiences and what we do know. And that has to be worked through with what the police force provides also. In addition, there's a lack of data and transparency on what exactly is happening now in our communities. And that's why you're reaching out and trying to gather that information. That is a critical issue that we need to address, is the lack of data, the lack of transparency that really helps to form our policies going forward. And so that makes our discussions at this early stage even more difficult, and really indicates that this is not going to be a one-year process. I know the governor wants something by the beginning of the budget year next year, but this is really a process that has to go forward for many years to come. However, with all that said, we do believe there's some basic reform principles that can be discussed and considered. And first and foremost, we discuss in our church the importance of accountability to each other, that there's an implicit contract in our communities that we're all accountable to each other, whether it's any kind of persons providing services, professionals, or anyone in our community, is accountable to be safe and appropriate in the provision of those services. Healthcare providers like myself are licensed to provide services, and we're disciplined. We're investigated and we're disciplined if there's any complaints about our services and our conduct. That should be looked at with the police also. The same thing is true for our police officers who are carrying guns and have the authority to use force in our community. Certainly, they should not be above the law and should be held accountable for their actions. That's essential to the future trust in our community. Second, I'd like to speak to the importance of civilian oversight. We think very strongly that a CRB, a Civilian Review Board, is essential for a town the size of White Plains. We understand that that might be a heavier lift for some of these smaller towns in Westchester that may have to look at collective efforts in order to be able to fund and operate a CRB. But we know that Mount Vernon is moving towards a CRB. They have one on paper, and they're working towards implementing it now, and we think that White Plains can do the same. There are all kinds of blends of models for CRBs. That can be discussed. You can get into the weeds of that. I wasn't going to do that tonight since I'm trying to hold my comments short. But there is a national organization, the National Association for Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement, NACOL, that can provide resources and support to White Plains in those efforts to design the CRB that really fits White Plains' needs. Right? It is essential also that local government requirements exceed the STAT Act that was recently passed this year in New York State. The legislature and the governor signed into law last spring the STAT Act, which requires the collection of reporting of stops that result in death. Well, certainly we think stats need to go far beyond that and need to collect data on all stops and need to collect data on all injuries that occur because of stops, not just deaths. We think it's very important to collect data on the demographics of stops because you can see patterns of abuse in certain communities when you see that there's a certain demographic population that's being stopped more than others. Next, I would comment that the public must be aware of the right to file a complaint and that complaint must be held with full confidentiality. They must be able to identify an officer without retaliation by the officer, and complaint forms in person and online must be readily available and reviewed with that civilian oversight, not just by the police department that may easily dismiss the complaint, but also heard by civilians that may have a more compassionate ear towards the complaint. New York State has recently passed legislation banning chokeholds, and we've seen this in the news. And I've talked to the mayor about this in addition, that it's really essential that White Plains maintain a ban on chokehold or the carotid restraints, the knee on the neck, the knee on the back, and other forms of chest and back compressions, restraints that have been acceptable process in some police departments, but I understand are not acceptable in White Plains. That needs to be monitored, that needs to be enforced, and needs to be maintained as a standard in our community. Police policies must require uniformed police officers to wear body cameras, and dashboard cameras should be on police vehicles at all times. And the CRB, the Civilian Review Oversight, must really look at incidents in which cameras have been turned off, why they've been turned off, why are cameras not on during the full stop and arrest process. And there must be interventions when cameras are turned off at the wrong times. Policies also must prohibit police officers from stopping, threatening, or intimidating civilians who are using their cameras to record police action. One of the things we're trying to do as advocates in the community is when we see someone being stopped by the police, we pull over too and take videos to make sure that the police officers are being held accountable. We need to be able to do that safely and to be able to protect the public. Bias and discrimination of any form by police officers or police leadership must be addressed through training, counseling, and restorative methods. We're not looking for a punitive approach to working with the police. We're looking for a restorative justice that really helps the police to be more effective and in a better relationship with the community. And with that in mind, we'll also say police policies regarding the use of guns and handcuffs in order to coerce compliance is constantly being used around this country and should be reported and reviewed by civilian input too. The use of guns, the use of restraints on children, on families, has been extremely traumatic for a lot of families in this country and must be prohibited in its early use. Only used where really there's true safety issues at hand. Finally, let's admit the truth. Policing problems reflect our social problems. These issues in our society require transformative changes in all of us and in all our systems that discriminate and oppress. These changes will require a strong collaborative relationship between government and all aspects of community in an open discussion and planning of social and community reform that is based on compassion and restorative justice for all. With that in mind, I hope that you will consider including our congregation in future discussions. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will submit written comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A particular kind of comment that reflects both my reaction to reading the Second Circuit opinion in the Kenneth Chamberlain case and also a personal experience that my family had. And the takeaway that I that these were sent to deal with something that really was ill-suited to be dealt with by armed police. That this committee should consider that in all situations which involve and implicate mental health or physical health, that in the first instance, healthcare workers or mental health care workers should be sent to the scene. Obviously, you all know that in the Kenneth Chamberlain case, the police went in the first instance because his meta alert button went off and he was not doing anything remotely violent or that required armed response. And that reaction to the Kenneth Chamberlain case reminded me of an incident that happened in our home many years ago that underscores, I think, the same need to consider using mental health workers in the first instance where it's appropriate. And that is a family member had an au pair they had hired for the year in their home, and that au pair had a psychotic break while taking care of the children, and they all happened to be at our house. And we called the police, and the police came, and we were all kind of milling around, stymied, because the police really were just looking for evidence whether or not this person was a danger to themselves or others in order to put them in custody. But the assessment, the mental assessment in that situation required somebody who had a much deeper knowledge. And I'm not at all being critical of the police. I'm just saying that this is another instance where it was really unnecessary to send and inappropriate to send police, armed police, to deal with a mental health issue. And I think many of the things that were mentioned in the prior speaker's presentation are something that are issues that I think are appealing. But my comment really is just emphasizing or urging the committee to consider limiting sending armed policemen to situations that implicate mental health or health issues. Thank you very much.
So let me know if you guys are able to hear it. I'm going to play the first one. So if you do, let me know.
My name is Maria. I'm the owner of a.
Can you hear that?
Yes.
Yes.
You can? Okay, so I'll continue to play.
Business in White Plains, and I want to report that in the city there is an abuse in the fines to drivers of vans. Police officers continually stop and fine van drivers, arguing that they must have commercial licenses in order to circulate freely. They have the vans put a back seat and 2 windows on each side of the car, even though the DMV has granted them a regular registration. Cops argue that all vans must be commercially licensed under state law in order to circulate in White Plains. However, New York law indicates that the only ones to verify that the vehicles are commercially licensed are the Parkways police officers. Vans that travel through parkways without a commercial registration can be stopped and fined by the police because that is their job. However, the law, New York law, doesn't state that the city of White Plains or any other city police department must fine van drivers. I was fined about 10 times for the same reason already, which I consider to be an abuse by the police. There are hundreds of drivers with the same problem. Another issue that I must be report in the city is the schedules in the school areas. On Mamaroneck Avenue, around the school areas, there are always cops who issue tickets at all hours. I think the slowest schedule for student safety should be 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., Monday to Friday. However, the police issue fines at all times, including after 4 p.m. and at night and on the weekends. Thousands of people are affected with this problem. Thank you.
So that was, I hope you guys were able to hear it.
Yeah, I heard it pretty good.
And we got another one. Let me just.
Is there another one?
Hi, my name is Leonardo, and I am a resident of the city of White Plains. One day, I was walking home from where I parked my car, and I saw one vehicle hit another vehicle at a red light. I saw it was 2 older females that got hit from the back at a red light by an SUV. So I walked to see if they were fine. The police officer arrived in moments. Once he got to the crash, he went to the females and asked if they were okay or needed any medical assistance or if they wanted to call an ambulance to check them out. From there, they exchanged information and the officer was nice and calm. The driver of the other vehicle, which was a male, seemed to be intoxicated, but my own opinion, he couldn't stand still. He could have had because he was in shock of the crash. And it didn't take long for the officer to finish the report, and he found out that the male driver did not have a valid driver's license. So the officer told the male that he can call someone to pick up the car. The male subject called his wife, and he told the officer that she was in a different state and that she would come in a couple hours to the next day. The officer gave the male subject many chances to call other friends and family members to come come pick up the car so it wouldn't be towed. The officer waited around 20 minutes before he told the male subject that he would let him move the car to a parking spot in front of his cruiser. The parking spot was around 10 to 15 feet in front of the police car. Then he told the male subject to tell his wife to come to the White Plains Police Department to pick up the car keys and to make sure she brought a valid U.S. driver's license with her. Then the officer told the two older females, if they needed a ride to somewhere or if they wanted to request a tow truck to take their car away. But they said no, and the officer said, thank you for being patient and all. And he said, have a nice day, and if any questions, to call him on his little business card that he gave, and then he left.
That was the other one we have one translation, but the translation, the voice memo was in Spanish, so Judy did the translation. So it's a written translation. I don't know how you guys want us to send you guys that, if it's by email or what would be the best way to do so.
Yeah, I think email would be the best way.
Got it. And then we have other 2 voice memos that got sent to us as well.
Some of us can understand Spanish, but maybe not all.
Can the Spanish be read to us by someone who can interpret?
We have the English translation. So if you want, I can also share my screen and I can show you the translation to the voice memo, if that helps.
Can it be read?
Yeah, it could be read as well.
Yeah, well, I think it'd be good if it was read even.
Yeah, let me just look for it.
I mean, you could always submit the written to us afterwards, but at least we'd hear what is said. Because I think that those in the chamber may not be able to actually see that document.
But when the policemen arrived to my house and they saw that my husband had something on his head because I tried to defend myself, I was very pregnant with a high-risk pregnancy. He had been hitting me very hard on my belly. But my attorney explained to me later that I should have never talked to them. They arrested the wrong person. The person that was most scared. I was very scared. They never told me that I had to be checked on. They arrested me. I spent a night locked up. Thank God they did not talk to my neighbor, the person that had called them. They never wrote a report about this. They only took me in. They took my husband in the ambulance to take care of him. He who only had something minor. To me, they did not do anything. They did not check on me. They only took me out to the hallway telling me lies and telling me they had to arrest me. Up to this day, I have been accused of putting in danger the life of my children until they become of age. When everything has been proven, I do not know. I was a victim of domestic violence. That case is already closed because I am a Hispanic woman. I never tried to get help where I could speak up and report what the police had done to me. That day, they never saw my physical condition. However, I had been battled. How I was full of black and blues. How I was full of black and blues. They never wrote a report. They never asked me anything, nothing. They judged me unfairly without even caring if I was okay or if my pregnancy had been affected, or if the baby, this was to be my 6th cesarean section. It was a high-risk pregnancy. So that was the translation in Spanish. As you guys can see, that one is kind of weird to read. But for what I understood is that her neighbor called the police department because she had been hearing, I guess, them fighting. And her husband, when the police arrived, they didn't ask her what was wrong. They just looked at her husband. And since her husband was the one with a minor concussion on his head, they just paid attention to him, but never asked her whether or not she was okay or if her pregnancy was okay. But she had been dealing with domestic violence for a really long time. They arrested her. She spent a night locked up, but she never did anything because she felt that she didn't have any rights. And up to this day, she was accused for putting the life of her children in danger, when in reality, her husband was the one to be at fault and not her.
That one, for some of us, Spanish might be useful to hear in Spanish, but yeah.
I can play the Spanish version if that's easier.
But I mean, obviously, maybe not everyone could understand it, but it probably
That was very clear to me.
Yeah,
but it came through.
Yeah, I got
It was very clear.
Really sad.
We got that. Thank you.
I have one from Reverend Gary Persisepi.
Okay.
Okay. Reverend
Thanks, Kayla. Anything else?
Can they hear me?
I just have one more that was sent to me as well. I'm just also airdropping it to my computer. This one is very short, I think.
Hi, my name is Stacy Torres, and I am a resident of White Plains, New York. Have been living here my whole life. I would like to say a very good story that I have with the White Plains Police Department. One day, my dog slipped away from me and my kids, and we couldn't find him. We were looking around my house. We ended up walking to the park, and we knew that he would be up there because that's where he likes to walk up to. And this police officer saw us running back and forth, looking like crazy. When he stopped his car, asked me what was wrong, I explained to him what was wrong, and he did the most amazing thing by stopping his car, parked his car, and helped us look for him. Took almost 20 minutes helping us look for him, calling his name out, and we ended up finding him. And unfortunately, I don't remember his name, but I felt so pleased and grateful to know that this police officer took his time to stop his car to help us, and I didn't even ask for it. So I stand with the White Plains Police Department. Thank you.
Reverend Trollinger?
This is from Reverend Gary Persisepi, he's the pastor of the Church of the
And the
Highlands.
last one is from a high school student.
Mi nombre es María.
We have Reverend Trollinger speaking now.
He says, time and time again, I heard the same thing from experts. Until police take responsibility of how they are viewed in the minority community, they won't be able to effectively police those communities. So, will the White Plains Police apologize for decades of policing that unfairly targeted minority communities? He continues and says, will it commit to a civilian review board and actively work to establish trust through community-based policing initiatives? And will it require all police to live within the city limits?
Who was speaking? Who was speaking?
That was Harriet.
Harriet?
Yeah. Harriet Lowell.
You have something you want to say?
No, it was echoing.
Okay. Is there anyone that has anything to say? Any comments?
No, but
I thought that Reverend Trollinger was talking. We didn't hear him.
He said, did you not hear him?
We didn't hear him. I didn't hear him.
Oh, wow.
I did.
I could not hear a word.
Would you like to come to the podium? Okay. He's going to speak again.
Thank you.
No, that was for TV. All right, where should we go?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is messages from the Reverend Gary Persesepi. He is the pastor of the Church of the Highlands here in the city of White Plains. And he says, time and time again, I heard the same thing from experts. Until police take responsibility of how they are viewed in minority communities, they won't be able to effectively police those communities. So, will White Plains Police apologize for the decade of policing that unfairly targeted minority communities? He also says, will it commit to a civilian review board and actively work to establish trust through communities-based community initiatives? And will it require all police to live within the city limits? That's from Reverend Gary Persesepi, pastor of the Congregational Church of White Plains.
We were going to hear from a high school student named who was speaking in Spanish. Can someone please replay that? I'm not sure who had that recording.
Spanish version recorded if you want to hear that.
Mi nombre es María. Hace un año atrás, en junio, tuve un incidente con la policía de White Plains. Obviamente yo tenía un proceso de violencia doméstica que estaba sufriendo en mi casa. Y mi vecina fue la que me llamó a la policía, pero los policías llegaron a mi casa, nada más ellos vieron que mi esposo tenía algo aquí en su cabeza, fue porque yo me defendí en defensa propia. Yo tenía meses de embarazo, un embarazo de alto riesgo. Él me había estado, o sea, me pegó mucho en el estómago, pero ellos dicen, mi abogada me explicó mucho después de que yo no debía haber hablado con ellos, me llevaron a la persona equivocada, aceptada, me llevaron a mí aceptada. Nunca me dijeron, tengo que hacer este chequeo. No, me llevaron arrestada, pasé toda una noche, una madrugada ahí encerrada. Y gracias a Dios, o sea, tampoco ellos preguntaron a mi vecina, la que llamó, nunca hicieron un reporte de eso. Nada más me llevaron a mí, a mi esposo la habían sacado de ahí a curarle a él en la ambulancia, algo menor que fue. Y a mí nunca me hicieron nada. Nunca me chequearon, nada más me sacaron a mentiras hacia mi pasillo a decirme, señora, te tengo que llevar a su estado. Y hoy en día, hasta el día de hoy, estoy juzgada como que puse en peligro a mis hijos, hasta que sean ellos mayores de edad. Cuando todo está comprobado, no soy una mamá mala. Fui una víctima de violencia doméstica. Ya ese caso se cerró, pero por ser latina nunca busqué una ayuda donde yo podía alzar mi voz y denunciarle a los policías. Porque ese día ellos nunca vieron mi estado físico, como yo estaba. Estaba toda golpeada, moreteada. Nunca hicieron un reporte, nunca me preguntaron nada, nada. Me juzgaron injustamente sin decirme, señora, está bien su embarazo, el bebé está por esto, no. Ya tenía mi sexta cesárea, era un embarazo de alto riesgo.
We cannot hear.
And they were gentle and caring and nice with, especially with children. And they were helpful. They were answering our questions. They kept calm, and they were communicating about the situation and what we had to do. And they were also able, and they had a police who spoke in Spanish, and that was more than helpful to us to understand what was going on better.
And that was.
Thank you.
All right, so
Recently, maybe
maybe on Thursday, I recorded an incident, 3 people being arrested. And I think the approach of the police officer was awesome. As I was recording, he came to me and let me know what was actually going on. And so he didn't struggle to say, stop recording. And I think to the gentleman's point that was here standing before was saying, you know, that we should be able to record and not have a struggle about it. And so the sergeant, he didn't give me any problems with recording, but you know, one of the gentlemen was high on something. I don't know what he was. Got a call from one of the neighbors. I was actually at my mother's place, and this is all happening. And the neighbor called because they saw 3 young people in the park on Battle Hill. Now, usually you can hide behind there and do everything. And so, they were called. The police came. I didn't know what was going on, but I saw 3 young people that were being arrested. And one African-American brother was saying, I want you to record it, you know, started screaming. And I know he was, you know, very agitated, but I do want to commend the officers' calm response and patience, because, you know, again, you know, I'm seeing it from my perspective. If it had been me, it was, you know, I would have been kind of agitated as well, but the police officers stayed patient, they stayed calm. And you can tell that the guy was really, you know, high on something. The 2 other young people went, you know, with ease. And there were 2, or there was one was a Spanish young man, and the other was a white female, and the other guy was black. And so, you know, again, the sergeant, you know, came over and, you know, let me know what was actually going on. He gave me his name. And so I just want to, you know, say that, yes, you know, that it was good for him to actually give me his name. And again, you know, the gentleman here was saying that we shouldn't have a struggle with getting the police officer's name. And so I just wanted to just tell that was recently, and I video recorded it. So just saying that there's no issue with, you know, recording and having that as well. So, yeah.
I couldn't hear that. Sorry about that. Our systems are a little bit crossed. Oh, so we can have a discussion now. Is that the idea? If it is, I just want to say that I had a discussion with someone in the city once about a civilian complaint review board, because I worked on advocating for one in New York City over 20 years ago. And I just, as a factual matter, and this has to be investigated, I don't know, somebody said that we actually have too few complaints, and that actually we should probably set up a county one, and that would probably be more effective and a better use of everyone's resources. So that was just something that I wanted to throw out there. I don't have expertise on that, but it seems like something that we need to balance, because if we want people to put time and energy and to take this very seriously, I think it's better to have a group that meets on a regular basis and handles problems and has familiarity, for what it's worth.
Thanks, Jesse. So despite all our technical difficulties, we did get a lot of information tonight, and we have our work cut out for us. So we did get a lot of good information, some feedback, and hopefully next week when we do it, we'll have resolved some of the technical issues, and we're looking forward to hearing from more people in the community. We're going to we're going to try something different with reaching out to the community. We're working on that, and we'll talk about that at tomorrow's meeting. But we're going to look at another way of reaching out to people just in case the flyers wasn't enough. So stay tuned, and we have work to do.
Here, as someone who's done it myself. So I think I speak for many of us when I thank you and thank the members of the committee for all the service to the city. It's sincere and hard work, and everybody appreciates it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think Reverend Trollinger said earlier that we should not be discouraged, because the county in its efforts, they kind of started out a little slow in terms of engaging the whole county. So I think we just take this as a lesson learned tonight and try and build some strategies and look for some options and alternatives in terms of
Right, of reaching out.
community.
Yeah, I agree. All is not lost, no.
The night I went to speak for the county, it was only 8 of us.
Okay, and that's the county. Okay. Well, we will be here tomorrow, some of us, if you want to come, or we'll be doing it on Zoom, and, you know, we're looking for ideas and ways of reaching out to people.
I like what this, I'm sorry, I forget your name. Donald? He was saying about creating a pop-up table and
Yeah.
just talking to people.
Yeah, he has good ideas, and we're going to talk about that, you know.
And, you know, we have iPhones and cell phones, and we can videotape, record people.
We can, yeah.
Comments as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
Is Bernie, are you still on?
Yeah, Bernie, I'm on if you ask me.
Do you have any reports or comments from brothers and sisters that live at Winbrook that you can share with the group?
Unfortunately, no.
He said no.
You said no?
He said no.
Okay.
I have one experience I can share from Winbrook. I was leafleting several years ago. I was leafleting outside regarding a community forum on the bar out. And there was a young man from the housing building who said he was very angry because in high school in White Plains he had been on the football team and he had a whole vision of what his future would be. This was several years ago. He said the City of White Plains Police Department did a drug raid on the housing building, and he told me that they planted drugs on him. And as a result, he had to spend several years incarcerated, and it completely derailed his career. So he was very angry. And this is what he was telling me, and I had no reason not to believe him. So that's one story.
I heard from someone who said they were afraid of police retaliation.
Is someone saying something?
It's Harriet Lowell. Can you hear me?
No.
Not working.
We can hear you.
You can hear?
Zoom, we can hear. I don't know about the folks at City Hall.
Yeah, I think they can't. Someone told me they were afraid. They're going to email me, I think, and let me submit it under my email. They're afraid of retaliation.
Okay, now if they email you, you can just read the email
Well,
without.
they contacted me on Facebook, and I said there are other ways, and they were too nervous. I said, well, I give you my email.
I think that this is our first outing. It may be within the next sessions that we have. If we continue to try to reach the public, we may get additional people to come out to talk. Maybe they need to see or hear some line of consistency and routine from the committee to be able to feel a little bit more safe about it. So I hope that we can get the word out there in other fashions. Maybe we can even apply through News 12 to have some PSAs put out about the activity that we're trying to take place, and that may help us get more people to respond.
That was Bernie? Okay. That's a good idea. Thank you. I agree. This was just the first one.
Sent out. It was announced on News 12 today. I did see it on News 12. So I think we'll follow up with that. I'll also follow up with the county press representative publisher, trying to push out as much as we can through the various organizations. So, but again, I thank the entire committee. Great job.
All right, well, it's 8 o'clock. I thank everyone. I appreciate it. And we will be back here next week. And we will be meeting tomorrow at noon. So I believe everyone got the Zoom link, right? Okay, you're sending that out tomorrow? And there's room for a few people if they'd like to come in person. You know, you could let Karen know ahead of time because there's room for a few people because we have to social distance and we won't be in this particular room. So let Karen know if you want to come in person. And everyone have a good night, all right?
Thank you.
Okay, thank everyone. Thank you, everyone.